This is Bizarre AF episode 1. I am Alesha, your host for today's episode, and joining me is my co-host with the most, Kevin.
Hi there.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How's everybody doing? Hey, we're live streaming. Hey, everybody.
Oh yeah. Hey.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here, and this is episode number 1.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. I feel like we've been talking about this for a while, and there's been lots of work. Especially, you have done so much work to make all of this happen.
I'm a tech junkie, so
it's wonderful. This has been so fun. So ultimately, I thought that it would be fun to kind of talk about how we met. What we, I guess, how we knew each other.
Sure.
So do you want to kick it off?
Do the honors?
Yeah.
Well, we are thespians.
Thespians.
And our love of theater is what has connected us ultimately.
Totally.
And we've done some shows together, which have been super fun.
Yes.
We've done another podcast together, which we've determined sealed our fate for
Totally.
being podcasters. Yes, exactly. And now we thought we'd take it to another level on a topic that we love to that we love personally.
Yes.
And take it to another level and live stream it.
I know. We're on here. It's so funny. I was when I was talking to you this morning, I'm like, oh my God, I am just feeling haggard. I had a long night last night. Oh, we're going to be recording. Hey, I better put on some makeup or make myself look kind of okay. But this is so exciting, and I love the way that this looks and that it feels. I thought that we could maybe talk about a little funny thing that had happened while we were on stage together, just to kind of show you how the way that we deal with each other is. So I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the last shows that we were in, we had this scene behind it was a scrim. So we were lit and you could just see our bodies, and we were telling this story, kind of like shadow puppetry.
Yeah.
And so we're supposed to embrace for a part of it, and I am that night apparently not balanced very well. So I almost fucking fell over on stage, and Kevin's like, so, don't fall over. We're both trying to not laugh to make our bodies
And so it's funny though, people see the shadow and they see they see this happening, they're like, well, I'm sure they were like, what is happening? I think that what it clearly illustrates is you will come to the rescue and help save things if they are going downhill. I feel so safe. And vice versa. That's what makes acting, you have to trust your partner on the stage.
So we have a lot of trust here. I guess,
do.
Is what I'm trying to say.
We do.
What is it about, so going from theater, now we're here talking about the bizarre. So what kind of made you interested in the bizarre? Was there...
I think it's the unknown. I think that's what's fascinating, in that you don't know the answers, right?
Sure.
And then trying to find the answers, trying to distinguish between real and not real, fact, fiction, and then having the thing I think is fascinating is when you have a topic and there is evidence to both support and negate it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think that's fun. I think that's fun.
It's totally fun. I think as far as what's the bizarre, I love a good story.
Oh yeah.
Give me a good story. Give me some gossip. Give me a train wreck. Give me an alien, a ghost, anything. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. And it was back from the days of Unsolved Mysteries. That was the first bizarre those ghost stories and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the first thing. So as far as the bizarre stories, what's your favorite type of bizarre story?
I'm into alien stuff.
Aliens?
I do like alien stuff because, it's anytime someone has proof, there's always people, the skeptics. There's never here's an alien. You know what I mean? We've never had like, here's an alien proof. Here you're looking at an alien, right? That doesn't exist. So
this is that little green man.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what makes I think the science fiction. I like the science fiction-y part.
Totally.
Of it.
Yeah.
I also like strange human behavior too.
Okay.
Like those kinds of things.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like abnormal, like just psychology, or
yes, I think the psychology of people, the like weird bizarreness, of
murders
people.
or something.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah. Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
In the big screen things. Yeah.
Very bizarre.
And then I'm doing it in order of things I like, and then probably conspircy, government conspiracy kind of stuff. And,
you know what? That's actually kind of my favorite.
Is that your jam?
Yeah. I love a good old fashioned government release. Give me a government release and I'm set. So that's actually the first topic that we're talking about is a government release. It was actually
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So it was actually a 2003 classified document that in 2003 the CIA released this document.
Oh.
So it's been around for a little bit, but you kind of really haven't heard of it. At least I hadn't. I had never heard of it. I actually found this through TikTok. I was like scrolling through TikTok.
Because you were like looking for government conspiracies?
Because the algorithm knows me.
No, exactly.
That knows that I'm always wearing my tinfoil hat as soon as I walk in the door. And I'm a weirdo for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
So so the actual classified paper is called it's about the gateway process. Have you ever heard of the gateway process?
I've never heard of the gateway process.
No. It's crazy because because it was released in 2003. It's like one of those things that were quietly...
They quietly released
They're like, it was actually put on by the Army Intelligence who created this, and then the CIA released it. So it was actually the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command project, and it happened in the 1980s. So the purpose of it was to understand how the gateway process worked and whether it would actually be of benefit to the Army. I mean, there's so much money in the Army, so it's like, or in the military in general. So it's like there's so many like studies that they do to try to see, how can we get one up on other countries, right?
Yeah.
So the gateway process is actually a technique that was coined by Robert Monroe, who is the founder of the Monroe Institute, which is still in existence today, and it's a nonprofit whose purpose is, I'm quoting, the global awakening of human consciousness.
That's mysterious.
Yeah.
The global awakening of human consciousness, meaning we are not woke.
We're not woke. We're not conscious or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like from my perspective, when I was like looking at it, I was thinking, well, fuck, of course they're going to be looking into consciousness and what that means, but like, how weird is it going to get? That's really what I wanted to know. Why was it, not released?
Well, and how do you awake a consciousness, and what does it mean when your consciousness is awoke? Right,
exactly. So, the commander who actually wrote this paper, and he was involved in the Army Intelligence, this committee, he was tasked to figure out how this consciousness project or process, you'll hear me say like the Gateway Project, the Gateway Process, interchangeably, it's really the same thing. His name was Lieutenant Wayne M. McDonald, and the task he was saying was a difficult one. He actually states in the letter to his commander about trying to define and discuss his task as,
frankly, sir, that proved to be an extremely involved and difficult business.
Yeah, that's saying something for sure. I think our good friend Wayne, okay, maybe not so good of a friend because I can't even find him on Facebook, and maybe he's dead, but I digress. Wayne, in order to understand how the heck this gateway process actually worked, he had to have an understanding of quantum physics, biomechanics, and he was actually working with a physician, and the physician was taking this process course offered by the Monroe Institute. So ultimately he kind of ends the letter in the same to his commander in the same way that I would like to begin talking about it.
Okay.
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 You ready?
Yes. I'm dying to know what this is all about.
Suspend your disbelief. And everything that I'm saying, take with a grain of, salt, whatever. Just put your thinking cap on and believe every single thing that I'm saying, or take it for what it is.
Okay.
So before we get into it, I thought, okay, this is kind of going to be dense at first. We should share what we're drinking.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so,
wait. Oh, well, hold on. I got to refill.
Yes, refill. Okay.
So as you all know, this is our first episode.
Yes.
And, I'm not going to lie. I love my adult beverages.
I think it's fair to say we both really love them.
But I thought to keep it simple. It's our first episode. Let's have some champagne because that's all about celebration.
Yes.
This is going to be a new journey for us, and I'm so excited for it. So I'm actually we're drinking mango champagne.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Cheers, bitches.
Cheers, bitches. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's like my sweet bitches. Like,
yeah, if you can find some mango champagne.
I didn't even know that this existed until I had it over at your house, and I was like, oh my God, it's so fucking good.
It is good.
Okay, so you ready? Got your drink? Anyone
ready.
Who's listening with us, grab whatever you want. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, although,
Yeah, sure.
Here we go.
Okay.
So, this gateway process, it was actually created by my other deceased friend. He's not really my friend, but I'm just going to call everyone my friend. So we already had brought him up before, Robert A. Monroe. He was actually born in 1915, so he is long fucking dead.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a broadcaster. So he started his own broadcasting company and was studying kind of the effects of various sound patterns on human consciousness. He was like, hey, there's something to it. So I'm just going to start studying
human consciousness makes a sound.
No, but actually it's a really good question. It's more like how does sound affect our consciousness?
Okay.
What kind of patterns can we use? Because there's something
to
up with
affect
it.
the consciousness.
Yes.
Okay.
Namely around like dream states and stuff.
Okay.
So while he was like trying to figure out this, he actually triggered or he found that there was something specific to these sound patterns and the way that they're moving through the your headset.
Okay.
And he ultimately actually triggered an out-of-body experience in himself, like an OOBE. That's they're referred to as out-of-body experience or OOBE.
Okay.
Have you heard of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So have you ever had one?
No.
Oh, I was.
No. I was like, yes. No.
Oh my gosh, I was about to get really stoked about it.
No, I wish. No, but what rang my head was NDEs.
Yes.
To cut, that whole out of body.
So what does an NDE stand for?
Near death experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Which it is an out of body experience.
Yeah.
That term was actually coined earlier, but Robert Monroe is typically attributed to that term, out of body experience, because he started getting pretty obsessed with it.
Okay.
He had enough of these that he could not understand where the fuck they were coming from. Mm-hmm. He knew it had something to do with this auditory thing that he was studying.
Okay.
So he's like, I have to figure it out. Mm-hmm. What the hell is going on here? So he decided to get some scientists involved. And Kevin, I'm actually going to have you read his direct quotes. And this is from Monroe's book, Journeys Out of the Body, where Monroe refers to the scientist, who's Charlie, that he's working with. And I'll have a link to the book in the show notes with this episode.
Okay.
But I've highlighted the parts for you to read. So.
Okay. All right, cool. Evening passed uneventfully, and I finally got into bed about 1:40 a.m., still wide awake. And then it says in brackets north-south position. What is that? Yeah,
so the north-south position, since he was studying all of this, the north-south position was the way that his body was positioned. Where was his head facing? Where was his body facing? He needed to tell all of these details to Charlie, the scientist, because they were
relevant.
Yeah, in case they're relevant. Like, is the north-south the best way to face? Is it this? Like, they're trying to be as scientific as possible and create the same scenarios.
Sure.
So they can replicate these out-of-body experiences.
Makes complete sense.
Okay.
Complete sense.
So continue.
The cat was lying in bed with me. After a long period of calming my mind, a sense of warmth swept over my body, with no break in consciousness, no pre-sleep. Almost immediately, I felt something or someone rocking my body from side to side, then tugging at my feet. Oh my God. I recognized immediately that this had something to do with Charlie's experiment, and with full trust, did not feel my usual caution. The tugging at the legs continued, and I finally managed to separate one second body arm and held it up, feeling around in the dark. After a moment, the tugging stopped, and a hand took my wrist, first gently, then very, very firmly, and pulled me out of physical easily.
Yeah, out of the physical.
Out of the physical easily. What?
That's insane.
I'm so... What? I mean, is this, like, literal?
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes. So, when he's saying second body, have you ever seen those, okay, I'm just going to go back to like Sightings, that show from the 90s, or Unsolved Mysteries, where you had like somebody laying in bed and it's like they're, or on a hospital gurney or something, and then they could see their body, but they're like their body's kind of like floating up above, and it's kind of like
looking down,
like the camera,
like this camera. Let's do it. Yeah, like that camera right there, looking down.
Yeah. So your body would be up here.
Yes.
And that's the second body that he's talking about, that came out of his own physical body. So it would be like my second body, like I'm just going to call it like a spirit or something. Okay. Like, I don't know what else to say. Translucent self. I don't fucking know.
So when he says, I finally managed to separate one second body arm, he's talking about that.
So his second body is coming. So I'm sitting here. This arm is coming up outside of his whole body.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's fucking weird.
Okay. Yeah. Insane.
But this is something that that would happen to Monroe often. So, and he wanted to continue to study these out of body experiences and sound patterns because he knew that there was something up with it.
Okay.
So he actually eventually moved his company to Virginia. So that broadcasting company moved over to Virginia, where he actually created this Monroe Institute. The Monroe Institute is actually a 501c3 nonprofit that still is in existence today. So, and they still actually do this process today. I was just going to say,
is this what they're doing there, among other things?
Yes. Yeah, it's part of it. So they would back in the day, they would sell tapes. You'll hear me talk about tapes often. You know, just assume that I'm also talking about however you get your media, or, you know, even YouTube, because actually some of this stuff is on YouTube, which we'll go over later. So he just had begun to delve into the study of consciousness and found these specific tools that made his out-of-body experiences endure. So it wasn't like, oh, my arm just came out and I went back into my body. It's like he could make it last for a longer period of time using this audio, and it would allow him to have that higher consciousness state. So it kind of triggered, the audio would trigger this.
Okay.
I know. It's so weird. It's a lot.
You know, yeah. I mean, I have a skeptical ear, but I'm going to keep going.
Right. We have our our brains that are here to listen.
That's right. That's right. Because
there will be holes.
People experience this on mushrooms too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's very interesting. Okay. Yes. We'll kind of get to that a little bit later, because I think that there are other ways to do it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I'm so interested to hear about your fucking story.
Okay.
Okay, so ultimately, this process, the way that they do it is it utilizes different techniques. One of the techniques is hypnosis. We have biofeedback, and then another Monroe Institute term, and it's called hemisync. I know.
And this is
it's a lot.
And so this is a term that he developed, this hemisync?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's something that's constantly talked about, like on Monroe and in this paper, this CIA released document is like 34, 35 pages long. So hemisync, you'll consistently see what that is. It's their term. So ultimately the goal and the gateway process is to kind of like turn off your brain in a way that makes you focus on things outside of the immediate area. So like right now I could be like, oh, my stomach's growling. I'm really hungry. Or like, I really want to imbibe more. Let's get another bottle of this mango champagne. Like you're not thinking about that. It's turning off all of your immediate functions like that allows you to kind of raise to what they kind of term a different consciousness level.
And so, can I ask a question here?
Yeah, of course you can.
So in this state, is your body still functioning as some, like I'm talking to you right now, right? And your body's functioning in a way that okay, so if you're in this state, are you still functioning that way? Or are you in like some trance or something like that?
You're kind of in like a trance or like a sleep state. So you're not conscious in the way that your body and your brain aren't conscious in the way that we think of it. Of like right now we're talking.
So 'cause someone could like, if you were in this state, someone could just walk up on you and stab you. And because you were like, you're not really conscious.
Yes.
Right?
You're trying to turn off those like fears of like fight or flight, right? Like,
I see. But can you still function as a human being in this? No. Okay.
It's like meditation kind of thing.
Okay.
Like think about it like a meditation, or even like if you've seen people get hypnotized, or if you're in a really deep sleep where you're dreaming and it seems super real. Your body's still unconscious, or you're not necessarily in your right brain. That's a great question.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. I'm sure you have more juice.
I have more.
Okay.
So, as far as like the hemisync stuff, have you ever heard of being right or left brain?
Totally.
Yes. Okay. So which one are you? And if the listeners don't know, I'll kind of go over what the differences are.
Yeah, maybe you should, because I can't remember now.
Okay, cool. So as far as
one's very intellectual and one is like creativeness, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So the left side is like more analytical. You have numbers, language, reasoning, logic, science, and stuff like that. Then you have the right side, which is emotional intelligence, imagination, expression, art, that creativity, that stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm. Is there tests? Do you know if there's ways to test this? Because I feel like I like both have qualities. If I had to pick, I think I'm more right-brained.
More right-brained.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think.
I mean, what sucks is like when you look at images and stuff, which I also have an image that I'm just looking at right now that shows like a left and a right brain. And the left side of the brain is like black and white. There's nothing in it. It just looks like it has those coils, like the normal brain.
Yeah.
Just black and white image.
Yeah.
Then you have the right side, and the right side has like beautiful colors and like it's like painted and it's like bright and like
because
florally.
Analytical is it's numbers, it's fact. It's 1 or 0, 1 or a 0, 1 or right. So that's why it's black or white, 1 or 0, on or off, right?
It's totally like that. But then at the same time, you're like, okay, like clearly you want to be one side over the other because the right one looks like a lot more fun. Like
exactly.
Who wants to be
That's
left?
why I'm right.
No, I'm definitely right. Yeah, it looks like shit. Like who wants to be fucking left brain?
Yeah.
Like we don't want to be left brain. We want to be boring. We want to be cool and colorful and right. So, I think okay, so I think I can see you being both because
I can be very analytical.
Yeah.
Yes, very.
And like tech and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can see the logic.
But I live and die by creativity
Yes.
and expression and all of those. I'm very intuitive with people. Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel like I'm more right brain.
I do think I see it. I think that you also have like there's like a great kind of balance too, because you do computer stuff. I could never do that. Never. But okay, so here's where I'm gonna take off my tinfoil hat right now and put on my logical brain.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when I was looking at this, I'm like, this kind of sounds like bullshit. You're either one side, because they're talking about like the hemispheres and how different they are. And what you want to do is get them to sync up ultimately. Mm-hmm. And I'm like sitting there thinking, how the fuck does a brain function if it's not talking to the other side or if it's not consistently working together? And I actually found a study that was released back in, I don't know, probably within the last 10 years. So ultimately, the study was done, and it basically says like you don't use one side of your brain at a time. You don't necessarily have to sync both sides of your brain. You know, the actual, it was called an evaluation of the left versus right brain hypothesis with resting state functional connectivity, magnetic resonance, and imaging. So they used like MRIs to study to see whether or not, you know, the people who are creative, like, can they
I've seen they show you pictures and such or whatever, and they kind of see how your brain reacts, right?
Exactly, like how your brain is reacting. So the data was actually analyzed from publicly available resting state scans of over 1,000 individuals. I know it's not a huge population, but enough.
Yeah.
Between the ages of 7 and 29, and for each subject, what they did is they looked at how they functioned together, like, were they separate? And they measured each pair of like over 7,000 regions. And it basically said, you know, the networks on one side aren't stronger on one than the other. And it doesn't matter who you are and how creative you are. They both are really strong and they're always working together. Okay. So it's kind of bullshit.
So you're saying that this particular what your study, whatever, is saying there is no such thing as a left-brained person and a right-brained person.
Yes, but
it's that they may function in those with those purposes, but
it's not necessarily one or the other. Yeah, and I think like as we're reading this, or as I was reading this paper that was released in 1983, we didn't necessarily have all of the technology that we do today to actually study this. So when it comes to that, kind of take it with a grain of salt. The hemispheres work together, and now we know that, but they didn't know that back in the 1980s. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So ultimately, so we understand that left and right, it's not as clear cut, and that they do work together. So but the idea of hypnosis is to kind of turn off some of those functions of like that immediate threat, like, oh, I'm hungry. Like, you know, you want to get into a really relaxed state. Those left-brained, what they termed in this, you know, left brain functions, not really left brain, but you know, we know that. Allowing those like immediate functions and that like self-conscious or whatever, that consciousness to kind of turn off. And to tune out. So, you know, like when you were a kid and you were listening to, you know, your teacher talk about geography, I'll just talk about it. Yes. And you're like falling asleep in class. You're like, this is so fucking boring.
Yes.
Same kind of droning on because it's just monotoned, not interesting. There's nothing interesting about it. You're getting sleepy, very sleepy, you know, and you have the little thing. Right. So that actually monotonous, these tones allow you to be more suggestive allow you to be more responsive to suggestions. Yeah. So the gateway process actually, it does that. It turns off that place where you're self-conscious and allows you to become more open to suggestion and to
so it's like a hypnosis, like being in the hypnotic
state,
being hypnotized.
Yes. They use very similar things like that monotone voice, someone, you know, like right now I could say, oh, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Breathe in, breathe out. You know, so you're not worrying, ultimately, like, you're not worrying about your immediate location. What you're doing instead is you're just concentrating and allowing your right brain, or that thing that's tied to a higher consciousness, to come out.
Okay.
So it does this actually through tapes. Remember how I was talking about the tapes with the gateway process?
Okay.
So they had tapes back then. Now you can find it on YouTube, but it's where your brain kind of almost tunes out everything, and it's being played through headphones. So you can't just turn it on to your TV and have this work. You have to be wearing some kind of headphones, some kind of like.
Is that to block out other stuff?
It's the way that the actual audio works.
Now we're back to the shapes of the tones and the sounds and such. The
tones and the sounds. Yeah, we'll go a little bit more into it. The specific like hertz that you're listening to.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like, you know, what you're doing is, you know, the brain's tuning out what is being played through the headphones because it's getting bored, and the suggestions that you're given are kind of taken without your brain having to worry about being too on top of the immediate surroundings. So you don't have to worry about anything. You're like, whatever, I'm just getting really, really, really relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have three different things. We have biofeedback, which I had mentioned before, hemisync, and then we have one more, but we'll go through just the biofeedback. So ultimately, biofeedback is like our smartwatches. So I have one right now. It counts how many steps I'm doing. It says like what my my heart rate is. If I'm, you know, sometimes they can measure blood pressure, whatever. All of us have them, but that's basically showing, what your body's doing in that moment. So it's measurements of function within that brain body connection. So that's what they're doing.
Okay.
Ultimately. So that they are using biofeedback, hemisync, that fucking word. So hemisync, it's that term. So we're trying to sync both the left and the right sides of your brain and get them on the same, like, essentially the same wavelength. So it's done through meditation and listening to those Focus 3 tapes. And it kind of allows this to be sustained. So we have that place that you're in. And then what you end up doing is you're sustaining that syncing and that like higher consciousness, potentially out of body experience for a longer period of time.
Okay.
So that's the goal of it. Ultimately, we've queued up a link that Kevin has, and it's Robert Monroe actually speaking in this.
Turn on your back, on your side, on your stomach. We are ready now for the next exercise. Move your arms, move your legs, so that they are in the most comfortable position for you. Turn on your back, on your side, on your stomach. Whichever way is the most comfortable place and way for you to lie. Do this while I wait.
The next.
Yes, and it was and the tones, and it was louder, softer, kind of moving around.
Yeah.
Yes. And now, you're saying all of those tones and everything was very intentional.
All of this is intentional. So
they've developed these sounds to get you into this state.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. So you have these tones, the hertz, and then you also have it rolling between one ear and the next.
Which hence why you need headphones.
You have to have headphones.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. But even the rolling waves that we were hearing in there, kind of gives you that white noise kind of effect where you're just kind of relaxing and it's really rhythmic.
Yeah.
And so it brings you into that. So
Okay.
ultimately, it's used to actually mimic the frequency pattern that the brain's actually hearing. So let's say like right now, our brains are actually functioning normally, right? So we're awake, we're talking, we're drinking, we can talk to each other. We're in a beta level. That's what the beta level is. Our brains are in the beta level.
They're in the beta level when
we are conscious in this sense.
Okay, in the sense of we are right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you play the audio that is associated with theta levels, which is kind of what we are starting to hear.
Okay.
It's the same levels that your brain is using while you're sleeping. So it'll allow you to go from that fully awake state, like right now, and then you can kind of get to that really relaxed, almost REM cycle where you're super, like, I don't know, yoga or meditation does.
Okay, sure.
So that's what we're hearing inside of our headphones is like audio that's going to cause us to fall asleep.
Okay.
So, or not be as conscious. So if one of your headphones, one side has slightly different hertz levels than the other. So as it's rolling, you might have like 10 hertz in one and then 7 hertz in the other. But it's really hard for the actual brain, like for us to distinguish right now. We can't hear that.
Right.
So we just hear that something's rolling back and forth, but it's very subtle. Oh gosh, itch. It's very subtle and hard to distinguish normally.
Okay.
So this is actually something that normally will naturally happen with long-term, like decades-long practitioners of yoga and Zen meditation.
Okay.
So what our friend Wayne says, the one who's dead, who's writing this, he says that looking at like recent articles that there's actually connection. That's what Wayne had said. But I was looking at it and I was reading that there is a connection between meditation and lower rates of heart disease. So what they were saying in this paper was they were talking about the ventricles of the heart and how the heart, like your blood pressure, will change the more you meditate. And that shit's true. Like there are links and studies that link, your heart rate, your blood pressure actually changes the more that you meditate.
Yes, I firmly believe that.
That's something you can definitely measure. So
yes.
check.
Yeah.
Left brain, right brain, bullshit. This, yes, totally.
Yeah.
So Wayne goes on to talk about vibrational energy. This is where we're getting woo-wooey again.
Okay.
Right? So, and how that gateway process works with vibrational technology. So, Kevin, if you could just read this for me, and it's an actual quote from the document itself.
Sure. Is designed to rather rapidly induce a state of profound calm within the nervous system and to significantly lower blood pressure to cause the circulatory system, skeleton, and all other physical organ systems to begin vibrating coherently.
Okay, Kevin, do you get what Wayne and I are trying to say? Do you get what we're throwing out there? You're going to vibrate?
So I do, yeah. And so I don't know if this is really, maybe it's related, but I also know that all matter vibrates.
Yes.
It all has a resonance. I think they call it a resonance.
Resonance.
And that's how you can bring bridges down with a certain tone, because if you get something to at the same frequency that particular thing is vibrating on, you can make it crumble.
Oh my God.
Fall apart.
That's so true. I didn't even think of that.
So yeah, I think this is all tying into that. It's the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just, I guess that one of them's tied to consciousness.
So I guess what I am still unsure about.
Yes, what? What are you unsure about? Tell me.
I guess I'm still confused as to how the government is involved.
What the relevance is.
Yes. And why they felt the need to release
a paper.
A paper.
Right.
Are we getting there?
Yes, we're getting there. So the thing, like in Wayne's actual document, he's like, dude, look, in order for me to even like show you or tell you what the fuck is going on with this whole process and how it works. I have to give you a base understanding.
Got to go in right. Otherwise, it would be nothing. It would make sense.
Yeah,
no sense.
It would make no sense. You would, he'd be talking about hemisync or like this like vibrational bullshit, and you're like, yeah, fuck you. Like, we just paid you how much? Like, and this is what you're doing with the government's money.
Got it.
So
and so the government, so this was all funded from the government.
Yeah, he works for the
100%.
Army.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Army, like special intelligence.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
Like the Army's like, special intelligence team.
Okay.
So he was tasked with studying this and seeing how it could actually help the Army, because they knew some weird shit was going on here.
Okay, because when you start talking about armed forces getting into this stuff, then now we're getting into really what they're trying to do, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So this is just like foundational knowledge that we have to do to understand how it works. And then we're going to talk about what the fuck are they going to do with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
So, but in order for us to even kind of discuss that, I think that understanding what the fuck consciousness even is, like you and I can sit here, okay, we're conscious, we're awake. Like what is that?
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
What
would you define it as? Like if you were to define it, what would you say?
That's a hard. I feel like if you really think about it for a second, that's a hard question.
So hard. Imagine trying to tell the Army what the fuck it is.
Consciousness is the opposite of unconsciousness.
Right.
And unconsciousness is when I am not aware of my current dimensional's presence.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that answer. I mean, that's a kind of, I kind of threw you under the bus with that fucking question. To be honest, like that's not fucking cool. I'm sorry.
But I was trying to be real careful, because when you say reality, like, what is reality?
Yeah, what is reality?
Right. So that's why I was saying this consciousness in this particular space and time.
I love that you're saying all of this, because you are bringing up shit that we are going to talk about.
Oh, cool.
All of this comes up in the paper.
Great.
And you're like, wait, I'm reading what? What the fuck? So ultimately, the way that they define it is they talk about matter, right? Because he's writing to the Army. I have to define this to this dude who fucking is boring as shit, and I have to say, what is this scientifically? So he's like, it's matter, and we're looking at what real matter is, and really, we're getting nerdy, like my dude McDonald, who wrote this. Mm-hmm. He's like, this is what he said. He said that it's an atomic structure which is composed of oscillating energy grids surrounded by other oscillating energy grids which orbit at extraordinarily high speeds. He actually, which is fucking too much. We know what fucking matter is.
Yeah.
But he has to go into that detail. He actually says that the detail of the hertz of an atom, like that vibrational sound energy of an atom. That's how far he goes into this paper, breaking down shit, because he has to, because he's coming at it from a scientific background. I'm not going to bore you with that. Mm-hmm. So
it would go right over my head anyway.
That's exactly what I think. That's going over my head. So what you really need to know is that he defines consciousness as the function of an interaction of energy in two separate states, that motion versus rest. So that is what matter, consciousness is that interaction of energy.
Okay.
So now I know you've been so patient. Let's get into the really weird shit.
Okay.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Okay.
Do you have your drink in hand?
No, I'm gonna get a little bit more. Do you have some?
I do need some, actually.
Yeah, if we're gonna get into some weird stuff, this will be appropriate.
Yeah. You need the liquid courage for sure. Okay. So ultimately, he starts talking about some weird shit. The hologram and consciousness matrix. Okay, Kevin. I'm just gonna let you do the honors and quote him directly.
Okay, I can do that. The universe is in and of itself one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. the human mind is also a hologram, which attunes itself to the universal hologram.
What? So,
WTF.
what the fuck? So ultimately, the attunement is fucking consciousness, is what he's trying to say. My brain hurts, and I don't have enough.
It's much.
It's too much. It's way too much. None of that makes sense to me. None of this makes sense to me. All I know is that I've heard of the hologram, the universe being a hologram, and how it kind of works within each other. He goes into great detail.
Well, see, that I can't even compute that theory.
No, you can't. I can't either. I mean, ultimately, the real question is, how the fuck does this work with the gateway process, and why are you wasting our time in this fucking paper, right? So I'm happy that you asked. Thanks for asking. And actually, so ultimately it helps our consciousness or our brain perceive the universe and its or our, consciousness with a filter. So we're only getting information that's pure, without it being tainted by how you feel or how you perceive things, or your ego. So when we're looking at consciousness and how it works in a greater sense with a universal consciousness, if we can turn off that place in our brain that we're like thinking about our immediate needs, and we can get into that like kind of Zen state, we have the ability to have more of the universe kind of opened up for us.
Okay.
And get those answers.
Okay.
Without the ego being involved.
Okay.
So I'm going to skip talking about quantum physics and subatomic particles and space-time, like intervening dimensions. Just know that dimensions exist, like you were saying.
Okay.
And that I am not a damn scientist, but I am a fucking girl who reads romance novels and has issues with cursing. So, aka I'm not qualified.
Right.
It exists, and McDonald's dry as fuck and about it. So there are multiple dimensions and possibilities in the universe that actually exist. So we can have more than one dimension we could currently be in. It could be multiple dimensions that we can have access to.
Okay.
So we go back to our out-of-body experiences. That term, it concerns the consciousness, with the allowing the consciousness to be outside of the body, right? Like death or dying scenarios, or if you're lucky enough to fucking do it while you're sleeping. You can do it in the past, the future, and the present. So you can go back in these out-of-body experiences, which is what they found in this gateway process as people were doing it. They could go back to their past, they could go to the future, and they could currently, like you're watching yourself, in like being worked on or whatever, you could go through and see that. So those are totally different experiences. And some people who are doing it consistently and get better at it can do even crazier shit. Like, not just looking at your body sleeping, think about the actual use of this with the military.
Well, yeah, when you start talking about being able to see the future.
Yes. See the future or interact with the past.
Yeah, that was the other thing. So they literally were interacting. They weren't just watching. They were interacting.
You can interact with your environment and different dimensions.
But doesn't that get into that whole altering
time
and
I mean,
doesn't that F that all up?
It does. And if you talk to some people, not that I'm wearing conspiracy theory hat, but I do have my my tinfoil hat somewhere around here. They'll talk about the Mandela effect that is due to an altering of a timeline. Mm-hmm. And there are multiple timelines that are happening all at once.
Okay.
So what if that was happening? Like of course the military would be going and seeing what this consciousness, study is doing, because these people can go, even if it's in the present, right? If you're in the present and you are, I don't know, trying to find Osama bin Laden,
yeah, if I can get out of my body and go
to the area.
Right.
Or say like, hey, my consciousness is going to tie to like Osama bin Laden's or whomever's.
Right.
You can sit there down and say like, oh,
I'm here.
Yes, exactly. I'm here. Or like this is how many like, I don't know, guards they have, or like here's a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
Like the limits or it's limitless,
course.
right?
Limitless.
So it's really why McDonald was studying it.
Okay.
He was looking at how can this be used kind of as a weapon, not kind of, definitely as a weapon.
As a weapon.
So how he was doing it, he was taking these focus tapes and stuff and going to the institute. So like I said, I'll have it in the show notes. But it allows you to get to that state of consciousness and projection outside of the body, that projection, outer body projection, outer body experience.
Yeah.
So eventually these tapes, what they fucking do is crazy shit. It actually allows you to go outside of your body and be able to, and here are just a couple of options. They call it the energy bar tool. I'm not kidding. This is actually in the document itself, where you have to envision a small dot of light and it starts vibrating. You make that light pulsate. What are they going to do with that pulsation?
Wait.
No. So you make the light. Sorry, I had to go there. So you see a small dot of light, and then what you do is you envision it pulsating.
Okay.
And what you're doing is you're channeling force from the universe to heal and revitalize your own body.
Oh.
Your own body.
Your own body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one option as you're going through. That's one thing that can happen and that we're consistently happening. These are practitioners who have been doing it.
So that would be good for a military
for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was on TikTok, they talked about it and how like some people who were like spies or whatever would use that if they were in an interrogation setting.
Sure.
And you knew it well enough and you can get to that state, you could heal your body. Or what about the ability to not feel pain?
Exactly.
So the ramifications are fucking huge with that.
Sure.
Remote viewing, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where they actually had a whole project on remote viewing.
Okay.
Where they would study, someone would be tested like, okay, where is this nuclear, base or whatever? What color is the guard wearing, or something stupid that they had just decided. The people would come back and be accurate. There was one guy, which we'll go over. He's going to be a topic for a future podcast. But he was one of the most consistent remote viewers, and he did it utilizing techniques that Robert Monroe really kind of solidified.
Okay.
Then we have like a living body map, and ultimately it's the same thing as that like energy pulsating wand thing. Yeah. So what you do is you actually see energy flowing and fix areas in an amplified way. So it's like a more extreme energy bar tool. So if you're hurt or whatever, it helps you to heal that or to not feel it. Then we get into traveling into the past. And they actually say it's on tape number 15 that teaches you, but you have to be using these tapes consistently in order to get to that point.
Right, can't just jump to 15.
Yeah, you can't just jump to 15 and have it work.
Yeah.
These are practitioners who've been doing it for a while, but then they can go into the past. Less than 5% of the people who actually, do the gateway process can get to that point consistently.
Okay.
So one thing that was kind of fucked up was they were talking about people and like, actually we think of the past, like going back into the past. Well, you're going to try to save, Lincoln from getting shot or something. You can go back into your own individual past and reevaluate or fix things that you have done. Your own consciousness.
Again, I like, how does that not change other stuff?
I mean, like the butterfly effect is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It has to have ramifications.
It has to, I would think.
I think that's where the ultimate if you're asking me, once again, romance novel reader, fucking love this shit. I think that it does have an effect on what we're actually dealing with. So you might have multiple dimensions. So maybe you switch over. I don't fucking know. Or the Mandela effect. Berenstein versus Berenstain Bears. Have you heard of that?
No.
So the Mandela effect is where people specifically remember something happening in the past. They look back and they're like, oh, holy shit, like this actually didn't happen. They're like, I swear to God, like this actor died. Or like it's named after Mandela, Nelson Mandela. People swore to God that he had died and he had not died. Like before he was like right after he was released or like right before he was assassinated or something. And people are like fucking positive like, that he had died.
He died.
Like I remember a funeral, the ceremonies and everything being played.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would, if that's real, then you would go insane.
Yes, yeah, because people would say no.
No, because you see him standing right there. Yeah. No.
What? But you're like, what the fuck?
But no,
I actually saw that. That's called the Mandela effect. So, and it was named after that because a lot of people are like, no, I remember this. I remember like it being televised, his funeral, that he actually did die.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what if that's like an example of this people changing the past and then little blips that you have, right? Like where you
and how do people and so if this is a thing, how do they keep people from not having this Mandela effect? You know what I'm saying? Like I change the past, whatever. Well, what is it? How do you not, you know what I'm saying? Like how do you make people not remember what it was before?
Did you ever read that butterfly effect book? I forget what it was called. The Sound? No, it's not the Sound of Fury. It's something. But it's basically what happens is like these people are time travelers. They're rich people and they travel back in time to like hunt dinosaurs. And one of the big rules was do not step outside of like this like roped off area. You have to stay in this. So this guy goes and like there's an election coming up and he goes and he actually slightly goes off of the road or the trail and he steps on a butterfly and it was a blue butterfly and the butterfly died. When he came back to the present, everything was changed.
Oh my God.
Their currency was different. The person who was actually elected versus when they left was totally different. The language that they had was different. So he comes back and sees that one tiny change in the past had
spurs all these.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it does. What if there's like police or something? Not to put on more of a tinfoil hat, but yeah, what if there are like time police or something that are like, no, you can't fuck with this too much. That watch these people who are involved in these consciousness projects.
Wow.
So ultimately, the thing that was the future is actually the last tape that you go over, and it's the hardest one to reach.
To get to the future?
To get into the future. And so that's on the 15th tape. I don't know what it is now. But ultimately, the other aspects of the past, which the individual himself has no connection to. So like you could, that's also on 15. So you could go to Lincoln being shot or whatever. That and the future are two things that you can do, but it's not very reliable at all. So it's only used by people who've done it for absolute years. And here's the fucking like really, really crazy thing. So this paper, like I said, is like over 30 pages or over 25 pages. And on page 24, it leaves a cliffhanger. Okay. So page 25 is missing, but this is how page 24 goes. It's talking about that ultimate consciousness and how we experience it. I'm going to have you read the quote on the cliffhanger between page 24 and then missing page 25.
And the eternal thought or concept of self, which results from this self-consciousness, serves who? You mean it just stops?
It stops and the whole page is not there.
Page 25 is not there?
It's gone.
It's gone. Wait, I'm confused. So you mean when they released it, they didn't include page 25?
Right. Yeah. And
is there a page 26?
Yes. There's a page 26. I believe it's 29 pages.
So page 25 was intentionally left out.
Well, normally, this is the weird thing is like normally when you have these CIA documents, they'll be redacted. right?
Yeah,
so, like,
of course,
you'll have,
exactly.
Like, big old blocks. It like looks like permanent marker.
You're like, why even include the page? 'Cause it's all blacked out.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
That's not done here. The whole page is actually missing, and of course that
Was any other part of the document redacted?
No. Nothing on the document.
Nothing on the document's redacted.
Mm-hmm. No other pages are missing.
No other pages are missing.
Uh-huh.
And interesting. And so was this released, do you know, as physical papers?
Yeah.
Or was it, because it wouldn't have been online at the time, or could have been now. So it was physical papers where page 25 was physically left out.
It was physically included originally. And we're talking about, so people have actually written the CIA and was like, hey.
Oh, so there was a page 25. When they released it to the public, was it included, do you know, initially?
No.
It was not.
No.
So once they released it, 25 was gone.
Right. So the CIA was in charge of this paper, right? They were in charge of releasing it. The Army Intelligence Agency is the one who had the paper and created it. So they handed it over to the CIA, and the CIA released the paper to the public in 2003. It's been missing. The CIA does not have the page. But...
they say.
So they say, they're like, no, we don't have it. It was not included originally. This is all we have. You can write to the...
So they say.
Exactly. You can write to the Army Intelligence Committee. This is how you request it. Nothing's come of it. So nobody knows what the fuck page 25 is.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what kind of answers or what kind of thoughts on consciousness and how it affects us is there. Because ultimately, you know, this whole like self-consciousness serves the what? Like, is this a warning? Like, I don't know. I kind of thought like maybe there's like a warning or something here. Like, if we are self-conscious, you know, or the way that we're accessing this information from the universe, if this is like some kind like ulterior like motives, maybe it's really bad. You know, like the universe isn't going to let you have the information, or I don't fucking know. It's
maybe
weird.
Somebody went back in time and took it out.
Yeah, they could have.
I don't know.
They could have. They were on like on tape 15 did it. So, you know, ultimately, I think when it comes to this concept of the universe and self-consciousness, you know. The question regarding that page 25, like, you know, could Big Brother be keeping us out? You know, is the man keeping us down? I don't fucking know. But our long lost and unlikely friend, McDonnell, had said that there was that it would be good for the military to get people trained in intelligence and start using this. And then he goes step by step on how they should start utilizing the gateway process.
And this was in 2004? What'd you say?
1984.
Oh, this is 84.
Yeah. That this was originally written.
Oh, I see. But it wasn't released until...
The public didn't get it until 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of
he was recommending this in the 80s to the Army to start doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, and people talk about the military and, you know, spies and things like that actually using it. So I don't know. It would not surprise me if they did go back in time. That's why we have these Mandela effects. If people,
well, we would never know.
We would never know unless you thought how is Chick-fil-A spelled?
What do you mean? Why? What do you ask that question?
That's another Mandela effect that people talk about. Like, you might be in another dimension. Anyways, there's like a whole list of them. Oh my
God.
Yeah, like if you remember something so specifically, somebody fucked with the timeline, and so you're in a different timeline or whatever, or you came from a different timeline, or someone fucked with our timeline in the past, and so you recall that old timeline. That was incorrect.
That makes my brain hurt.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. So that was our first topic. I mean,
wow.
Do you think this is something that is happening? Like, do you feel like people are actually, I don't know, like the military is actually utilizing something like this?
Like I said, we would never know.
Yeah, we
would never know if they were. I mean, because because the government does in the military, they do things we don't know about every
Totally.
single day, and they've done it forever.
Years.
And so if this was a truly working thing, we would never know about it. Especially if they can go back to the past and fucking change shit. We would never know.
Totally. I mean, would you ever do it? Like, let's say you were able to go to the institute and go through
Learn
this
how
like
to
process.
do this.
Yeah. Would you try to seek it out? Have an out of body experience?
I don't feel no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't find value. I can't think of a value.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be interesting, but
Really interesting.
I think you by what you're saying, you'd have to commit to it so hard that I don't. And there's no guarantee that you're going to do it. Apparently. Right.
You have
because you said only 5% of people can even do the past thing. I think you said.
Yeah, the past thing. Yes.
So what value would it be to lift my second?
So the
body
past is what
arm?
you would be the most interested in.
No, future.
Yeah, the future. Would
But
be.
then at the other, and then what crosses my mind is no, because then I might come back and be completely stressed out.
Yes.
Of something I can't even change.
Oh my God, yeah. Just imagine like knowing what
You're
know
like,
today.
oh my God, exactly. It's
20 years ago.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
When did that happen? Oh my God. And then you'd be stressed about when's this gonna happen? When's it? You know what I mean? It just no.
Totally.
No good can come from this.
I mean, I do agree. I think I would do it. I think this is really interesting. I would be interested to hear some of the codes and things that people have used, but I would do it. I have had an out-of-body experience.
Really?
I've had multiple.
Wow.
Yeah, which I'll save for another conversation.
Yeah.
But the process they're talking about with that vibrational stuff, that's real.
Yeah.
Like where you feel a vibration too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's
I
reality.
believe it. No, I do believe that. Especially since I know that everything has its own harmonic, its tone. So it only makes sense that that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's real.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for listening to this
Thanks.
fucking CIA released real paper.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's
It
definitely
was
bizarre.
a good bizarre as fuck.
Yeah, totally. And who knows where we're at today, what they're studying. That's really the question.
That is. And will we ever?
No,
Probably not.
never know. But big old cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Yes.
This was our first one, and I'm looking forward to our second.
Oh my God, same.
Have a good day.
See ya.
Bye. Ooh.